Assalamu alaikum. Hey, and welcome to the iLife Coaching Podcast. This is brought to you by ChronicConnection.tv. I'm your host, Abdul Shahid, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about something really important that so many people are struggling with. And, half of the time, the problem is we don't actually realize it's happening. How many people do you know that you feel judge you? Like you feel like you're always being judged. You see, it for some people, it seems like Judgment Day is every single day. Sometimes you can't even go through a day without being judged by someone. And it's a really awful feeling because it just completely knocks your confidence, your self-esteem is in the toilet, and it totally drains us of all of the energy and the zest for life. And life can be challenging at times. Like we all know that. So, what's up with that? Why do people constantly judge themselves and others? Sometimes we just want someone to come along and tell us how to do things right. And that's the funny thing about it, because look, we assume that it's always others judging us. Sometimes we're the ones doing the judging. But the worst one, and this is one that I see a lot, is that people tend to judge themselves more than anyone else judges them. And that may sound like crazy to you, but whether you're judging someone else or you're judging yourself, like it's the same thing. It's actually the same thing. But what's worse is that when we really start to judge ourselves. And people say stuff like, hey, hey, look at you. If only I could be like you. Or something like, wow, you've done really well. Great family, great car, great business, or great career. Wow, Allah has really blessed you, huh? And what do you feel when people say stuff like that? You see, sometimes we get worried. We get worried that, you know, people are jealous. We get worried that people are envious. And that's probably not the worst of it. You see, as people say these sorts of things to you, we can interpret them in all sorts of ways. And like sometimes you're thinking to yourself, they so don't understand my life, how much hard work I have to put into it just to keep it all together. And Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Like, no, like, everyone knows this verse, right? Everyone's heard this verse. Like, Allah does not burden a soul more than it can bear. And then the thought runs through your head, but I really can't bear this. Like, this is so overwhelming. And so, sometimes people think these things, but they never actually say it. Because look, hey, we all believe in God. And we absolutely love and appreciate all of the blessings in our lives. However, the feeling of pressure, the feeling of, being so overburdened with life, it can be troubling for the best of us. So ask yourself this question. Do you feel isolated? Or do you feel disconnected? Or do you feel misunderstood? Do you feel judged even? I mean, it could be very well the case that everyone else sees you and sees this great success, but you don't actually feel that. And you don't actually see it. And you feel like your life is just being held together. Just about. It's like you're drowning in your life. And you don't want to seem ungrateful. So you keep it bottled up inside of you. And so what has any of that got to do with being judged? And inshallah, in this episode, I'm going to share with you exactly how judgment plays into that, and also what you can do to actually find your way out of this problem, because this is a really devastating problem that people suffer. And as I said to you already, in my coaching practice, I see this all the time. I speak to people. We have these, amazing sessions where we're trying to figure out what's actually going on. And in the end, it occurs to me that what's actually going on is that it's, self-inflicted a lot of the times. Unintentional, of course. No one wants to judge themselves, but they end up doing it. Like we end up doing it, right? So, this is a difficulty that so many people face. And I've personally suffered from this, for many years actually. Like it's something that I didn't even realize at a point. And when you're striving so hard, you're killing yourself to make your life happen the way you want it, and always feeling like it's never enough, that you are never enough. This feeling is the feeling of being judged. That it's like being overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of life, but it's almost like you're doing it to yourself and you don't realize it. And it can be like completely debilitating. It can zap the energy, enthusiasm out of your life. No one likes to admit that, but many people feel it and they carry this with themselves inside on a day-to-day basis. So there are two types of successful people that I've seen in my life. I mean, this is a generalization, right? So this is not absolute, but let's just say, for conversation's sake, there are two types. You see, when teaching adults, like I've been teaching adults for a while, like you see some trends, you see some of the things that, people, they tend to end up trusting you, and, they start to seek advice, and it's almost like counseling. Well, it is counseling, but, people get into a crisis situation and they look for a way out. They look for a way out because they feel a little bit vulnerable, right? And so over the years, as I've seen this, like the types of people that you get, you got the successful person who's doing great in different areas of their lives. They're doing great in their career, great in their businesses. They're financially they're secure. They've got great social life, or like let's call it a busy social life, right? And amidst all of that, there's things missing. They just don't know what it is, and they're always, they pride themselves in being introspective people. People like to look at themselves and, develop themselves and be better and better as life goes on. But in the midst of that, when there's this constant feeling, like, no matter what I do, I don't feel good, then what tends to happen is that introspective look becomes more of a challenge, where you start to challenge yourself and question yourself and doubt in whether or not you make the right decisions. Because look, everyone else seems to be happy. That's what you say to yourself, right? Everyone else seems to be happy. They're all doing great. All my friends and colleagues, they're doing great. But here's me, like, it doesn't matter what I do, there's always this feeling inside me that just really doesn't go away, and it really bugs you. And so that's the one sort of successful person, right? The other type of successful person is the one who achieves all of that exactly the same, has a great, has achieved the different milestones in their lives. They have a great career. They have, they've got the family, the children. They're doing things in life. But again, in the midst of that, they always feel like their life doesn't square up with the picture of what they assumed their life would be like. And so they're always bashing themselves. They're always telling themselves that, you're not good enough. Like you couldn't do what you planned to do. And so it's almost like they've got these goals that they use to beat themselves up with. And this happens a lot, right? This happens a lot. You see, I've just given you two different examples of, what seems to be success, right? But in both cases, for different reasons, people struggle. People struggle, right? And here's the thing, in the midst of all of that, when feeling like they're being judged, they judge themselves, right? Like I've done this myself. Like we do this. We humans, we try to develop ourselves. We set ourselves up these standards, these goals, and when we don't meet them, then we end up judging ourselves, and we end up like beating ourselves up over it, and you end up feeling isolated and alone. So I want to give you the good news that you are absolutely not alone. You are never alone. You see, the thing is, people, in the struggles that people have, they can end up really believing that they are the only one. Because the people that they compare themselves to, they don't have the same issues. Or even if they do, they don't openly discuss it. People are very private about these things, and they don't want to share their vulnerabilities. So when that happens to us, when that happens to me, then I feel alone. Like I'm the only one with this issue. And the fact is, you are never alone. The feeling of being alone is a large part of the problem. It causes people to feel that there is no way out of this challenge. But I can guarantee you that there is always a way out, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, Allah will make a way out for them. And that is a promise. That's a promise from the one who created you and brought you into this world. You will always find a way out. Even if you feel that your local community absolutely sucks. They don't support you. They don't give you what you need. Your friends, your family, they're not giving you what you need. So you feel like you don't have that support network, and you feel like completely socially isolated. So Allah promises that He will give you a way out. And that's a guarantee. You don't have to believe me. That is the verse of Revelation. That is a promise from the Creator of you. So you don't have to rely on yourself. You don't have to figure it out. Allah will give you a solution. There's always a way out. Allah says, مَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, like whoever has taqwa. And taqwa, this is to have taqwa. Like, they translate this as piety or fear, but comprehensively, this means to have a connection with the Creator, a connection of love, a connection of hope, and a connection of fear of falling foul, like fear of doing things to displease your Creator. But more importantly, like, it's the love and the hope. It's the love and the hope. Like, knowing your Creator will help you with that. Right? So here's the thing. You need to look for that way. It is a guarantee. Allah promises it. And if you've tried and you've not found what you needed, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means the things you've tried didn't solve your problems. So you have to try things that you haven't tried before. You have to look in places that you haven't looked before. Look, as a coach, whenever I deal with problems, I see one common factor playing out over and over again in different lives. We are always trying to look for a quick fix. Like, we don't want to invest no time, no energy. It's like you want to go to the doctors and get a prescription for some medication, that will just suppress your problems so that you can just get on with life the way it is. But that's a large part of the problem. The way that we have been living up until now is a contributing factor as to why we suffer from whatever we suffer from. And so you can't expect to find a solution from a place where the problem was created. So you have to change the place. You have to change the thinking. And it's only by doing that that we can find that solution. But in doing that, like, you can absolutely trust and rely on the fact that Allah has made you a promise. But here's the bad news. What you've done up until now may not have worked for you. And you know that already. Maybe it helped you, maybe it made it a little easier. But you're still searching. And you're still searching because it hasn't solved the problem, right? So that's how suppressants work. Suppressants and life hacks don't work in the long term. They only help us cope for a short time before the problem resurfaces. And over time, as you know, it can get worse. So Allah tells us, like, very clearly here, if you rely on Him, you turn to Him, you have hope in Him, then you will be provided with a way out. It's not that you're going to fix it, you will be provided with a way out. But look, having hope means going out and looking beyond your comfort zone, beyond what you're comfortable with. Relying on Allah means being able to believe in the solution, believing that in that guarantee, and knowing that it must exist even though you haven't found it. You can and you will find a solution. There's no doubt about it. There is never a problem that is too large for Allah. He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most compassionate, the most merciful. So even when you judge yourself for not being good enough, not being worthy enough, the mercy of Allah is so vast, the compassion so encompassing that you won't be able to escape it. In fact, you'll find that it already exists in every area of your life. It's just difficult for you to see it when you're in so much pain. So the challenge in life comes and goes for every human being. That's a fact. No one goes without them. No one goes without challenges and problems. But people do keep themselves busy. They keep themselves occupied with anything that will help them to stay distracted from what's actually happening. And that's something that I've seen over and over again. Like it's almost like the human condition. We like to keep ourselves busy by whatever it is that we do, whether we're busy reading stuff or training in stuff or like binge watching movies and like whatever we do. Like people are busy doing stuff. And that keeping ourselves busy is like sticking your head in the sand, like the ostrich, hoping that the challenges will go away. And what I'm saying is that, look, you don't have to do that because Allah is always there, always taking care of us. The challenges that are often self-inflicted or even inflicted by others don't have to be your life. You can change it at any point. The door is always open. So don't give up. Become resourceful. Become daring and take a leap of faith. That's what it takes. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to get out of what you've been doing because obviously that's not working. And if that's not working, it doesn't mean the solution doesn't exist. Because there's a guarantee there for you that there's always a solution. So it's a matter of your faith that will raise you above your challenges. Like you got to believe in it to make it happen. You see, that faith will increase your chances of finding a quicker solution. But quicker doesn't mean that you will find it quickly. But if you've tried everything and nothing has worked, then I can tell you safely that all you have done is found ways not to be focusing on, meaning ways that aren't giving you the solution. So you've knocked on 1,000 doors. It could be door number 1001 that you need to knock on before you find your solution. Now, it doesn't even need to be that much, right? The truth is, most people, they try a little. They get nowhere near 1,000. They try a little and then they give up. Try 2, 3 times, 4 times, maybe max, and then they get frustrated and they start to give themselves a hard time, and then they end up giving up and thinking that, this is my lot in life. And it's not. Because there is a promise there for you. So let me take you back to the beginning of this. What do we talk about? I said to you that judgment is where we started with this, right? Judgment is something we see more and more in our own lives. Like it's self-inflicted as well as it coming from the outside. Like we judge each other, we judge ourselves, our families, our husbands, our wives, our bosses, our colleagues. It's like we've become the judge. And we hate it at the same time. Because it is the thing that makes you feel awful. And as much as you don't like to be judged by other people, so you can stay away from them, the challenge that you have when you judge yourself is that you can't stay away from yourself. You wake up and there you are. You turn and look in the mirror and there you are. You're having breakfast and no one else is making a sound, and you're the one that you can hear. You're walking past a load of cars and you look in the reflection and there you are. You never leave yourself. You can leave others who judge you, but you can't leave yourself. But what you can do is you can leave the judgment. You can just decide today that I'm no longer going to judge myself and demolish myself and absolutely do my own head in. Because that's what we do. We do our own heads in. We judge ourselves to the state where we absolutely demolish our confidence, our self-esteem, our belief in ourselves. And then we think it's inflicted from the outside. We think that circumstances have inflicted them. But look, if you feel like you're not good enough, you're not the one that created the heavens and the earth. You're not the one that created you. You're not the one that sustains your heart. You don't make your heart beat. Allah makes it beat. So all you have to do is submit to the Creator and rely on Allah. If you don't feel like you can rely on yourself, let go. You don't have to sit there judging yourself. Let go of what it is that you're using to beat yourself up with, those expectations. But the worst thing that you could do is to continue to judge yourself, because you will never allow yourself to get out of that pit that you find yourself in. So on the one hand, you're listening to like YouTube videos or motivational talks to get you pumped up and make you motivated. And as soon as that finishes, you beat yourself up. You give yourself a hard time. And then you knock the confidence out of yourself. You see, recognizing that you have the power to let go is the first thing. Recognizing that you're doing it to yourself is really important. You see, if the problem disappeared, like say you have a problem and that problem disappeared, you wouldn't judge yourself, would you? The things that you're using to harass yourself with, you wouldn't judge yourself if those problems disappeared. You'd be too focused on how great life is. You'd be enjoying the blessings. And oh yes, you have blessings in your life right now. However, sometimes you can't feel it because you're too busy focusing on you. The feeling of not being enough, not being the person you want to be. This comes from your own set of rules and expectations you have of yourself. But even that has a solution. There is nothing without a solution. The minute you start relying on Allah, you can stop relying on yourself. You can take life to new heights and new levels, new successes, and new levels of contentment just by relying on Allah. You see, in that verse, Allah says, "Man yattaqillah," whoever has taqwa of Allah, then they don't need to find their way out. Allah will give them a way out. They just need to look. And it's important that you and I, we understand the component of this taqwa is hope. Hope is knowing that Allah will give you a solution. Hope is not a wish. Wishful thinking won't help you. Hope is knowing that Allah will give you a solution and is waiting for that and is going out and looking for that. It's something that will absolutely transform your life. Relying on the ever-living, relying on the one that can be always relied upon. You don't need to rely upon yourself. You just need to rely on the one who's always sustaining your life, always giving you everything you need. But you won't find it till you stop relying on yourself and start relying on the all-powerful. That's right. You and I, we can become as powerful as we want if we rely on the all-powerful. That's your support network. That's what you need. And if you can turn to that source of power in your life, then you can have just about anything. There's nothing you can't reach. There's no success that can't be reached in your life. Your potential is absolutely unlimited if you rely on the all-powerful, the one who gives us everything. The only thing that stands between us and that is our judgment. And sometimes in judging ourselves, we actually curb our ability to even think straight. You lose your power by judging yourself. All you have to do is let go and rely on Allah. Like, does that mean you don't take action? No, absolutely not. You have to take action. But the action will follow the belief, the certain belief. You know, when you have those thoughts that you become absolutely certain of, when you become certain of them, you will become motivated. You will have the drive that you need. And you will take the correct action. It's not that you don't take action. You take action, but you take the action that doesn't serve you. But when you start relying on Allah, you'll see that will change. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you feel like there's something in this that really rung a bell, but you're not too sure, then I would stop, rewind, and listen all over again. That's the sort of person I am. But we're all different. So inshallah, I'm going to leave you with that. And I will see you in the next episode. Jazakumullah khair.